say welcome everybody. 5 minutes till we actually start. So if you could start coming through to the main auditorium from the marketplace, that would be really good. Thank you. If you can continue to come through to the main auditorium, the marketplace will close in 2 minutes. Thank you. We'll be starting in 1 minute's time. Right, it's 11 o'clock. We'll make a start because we've got a lot in the programme today and we just do need to keep to timetable. So for those of you who are still in the marketplace, the light should be dimmed very shortly, closing the marketplace, but if you could just keep the noise down, that would be brilliant. Thank you. So welcome everybody to NAViGO's 2024 AGM. It's great to be back at the auditorium again, and I hope you've been enjoying looking around all the fabulous displays in the marketplace. I hope you also picked up your NAViGO wristband when you arrived today, and don't forget to plant your wristband when you get home, because it's actually got wildflower seeds within it. So just a reminder to plant your wristband. Just in terms of fire and housekeeping, there is no planned fire drill for today. So if you hear the continuous fire alarm, please make your way outside the building using the designated fire exits and assemble in the car park outside. The toilets are located in the front foyer to the auditorium, and as per usual, lunch will be served upstairs. But can I remind you, when you go into lunch, can we use both of the stairways? Because it does help to actually reduce the queues. For NAViGO staff, you'll be really pleased to know that you can have your flu jab today up till 12 o'clock, and that is upstairs. The occupational health team are upstairs waiting for you to do the jabbing. And today's AGM, as last year, is being live streamed on YouTube and on the NAViGO website. Our staff and community members have worked really hard putting together today's programme, ensuring that we're all going to have a wonderful day. And our AGM is being attended by so many people, our staff, our service users, our volunteers, and our key partners. And on that note, I would like to welcome the worshipful the Mayor of North East Lincolnshire, Councillor Steve Besant, and his Mayoress, Mrs. Sandra Hullett. I'm going to come back to Steve in a minute, but firstly, I would like to introduce our new community and staff representatives. Every 2 years, you, our staff and community members, get the chance to elect your representatives who will sit on the membership board. And later today, we will be thanking those representatives who've given so much of their time over the last 2 years to being your staff and community reps. But right now, I get the lovely job of welcoming our new reps into their roles. So first of all, I would like to introduce your new community representatives, and if they are in the auditorium, as I say your name, could you please stand and give a wave so people know who you are? So the first community representative is Claire Avery. Hi, Claire. Welcome, Claire. Thank you. Claire will not only be a community representative for NAViGO, but she will also sit on the NAViGO board as the community non-executive director. Claire has previous experience of NAViGO services and is currently one of our volunteers, and she'll be able to bring her nearly 30 years of experience in local health and social care to her role. So you're very welcome, Claire. We're pleased to have you on board. Next, Kelly Harrison. Is Kelly in the... Hi, Kelly. Kelly works on a Nurtrio contract and has a background in both teaching and social work, and she's previously worked as a youth worker and currently works within our corporate affairs team. You're really welcome, Kerry. Nice to have you here today. Rachel Ogley. Now, I know Rachel can't be with us today. Rachel has already completed a 2-year term as a community rep, and she's delighted to have been re-elected. And I'm sure Rachel won't mind me saying that she has a really strong focus on how NAViGO improves the support it provides to people who are caring for someone with a mental illness. Next, Paul Richardson. Paul, are you with us this morning? Thank you, Paul. Paul will bring to his role as community rep both experience of NAViGO as a service user and also as a Tukes volunteer. With a long career in the Grimsby area and a deep knowledge of the local community, we're delighted to have Paul on board. And our final community representative is Richard Rudd. Richard, are you here? I can't see Richard. No? Okay. Richard has a military background and also a long history of working on the Humber Bank. He's passionate about how positive mental health is supported in the workplace and is a qualified mental health first aider. He's also very keen to bring his paddleboarding and kayaking skills to the disposal of our service users. So those are our 5 community representatives who will be working with us over the next 2 years. Moving on to our new staff representatives, firstly, Ross Albury. Hi, Ross. A senior employment advisor who is passionate about co-producing innovative services, broadening our membership, and enhancing support systems for our staff. Secondly, Rebecca Ardis. Hi, Rebecca. Adult safeguarding lead for NAViGO, Rebecca moved from a successful military career to qualifying as a social worker, and she wants to ensure that it's easy for staff to access their staff reps and create a platform for staff to feel able to share their views and feelings whenever they experience them. Toby Ben Babatunde. Hi, Toby. Over 20% of NAViGO staff come from a black and ethnic minority background, making it really important that this community has a voice that can be heard very clearly within the work we do and the decisions we make. This year, our BAME network have chosen Toby to be their representative, and she will also represent the BAME community on the NAViGO board as a non-executive director. So you're very welcome, Toby. Joe Keane. So Jo has already completed 2 years as a staff representative and staff NED, and I know that she's delighted at having been re-elected. Jo's focus is to make sure that through harnessing the thoughts and voices of staff, we make realistic but positive changes together. And finally, Rebecca Myers. So Rebecca has worked for over 5 years in the training and development team, but has also worked on the bank as a healthcare assistant. Like Jo, Rebecca has been re-elected, and she thrives on supporting staff, listening to ideas, feedback and concerns, and being able to do something about it. So welcome to all of our new community and staff representatives. Just 2 or 3 more things I need to say before we move on to the seminar. I said I'd come back to Steve Besant, and I'm going to. So firstly, Steve has a particularly close association with Nurtrio, having been a long-standing trustee for Care for All. And Steve has very kindly chosen Nurtrio as one of his charities for his mayoral year. The next fundraising event is a walking marathon being held on Sunday the 13th of October at 10 a.m, being organised by Nurtrio. And if anyone would like to take part, you don't have to do the whole marathon, you can just do chunks or sections. Please pop across to the Nurtrio stand today. I'm sure they'd be really pleased with your support. I also want to mention Gardner Hill Foundation. I'm the chair of the foundation. And Gardner Hill provide grants to both NAViGO and Nurtrio service users, providing over £15,000 worth of grants each year. We help people who are moving into new accommodation, we support people who may be wanting to enter employment or training, and we support people to take up activities that are positive for their mental health. I'm sure you can imagine that demand for our grants is increasing, and today Gardner Hill is asking NAViGO staff specifically to support the charity by signing up to donate the odd pence over from your monthly salary. So the maximum you would ever donate each month is 99p and the minimum is 1p. You will find the Gardner Hill stand in the front foyer, and you have a chance to enter a prize draw today by signing up to this micro giving scheme. So please give it your consideration. Finally, can I remind you to use your voting chip for the projects of the year? This year, the members have decided to take a slightly different approach. So rather than having a large single project, your vote today will identify 2 smaller projects that will be supported with a further opportunity for another 2 projects later in the year. Please remember it's really important to cast your vote for Project of the Year by 2:15 p.m. Thank you very much, thank you. Right, that's all of the housekeeping tasks I was set by Julie. So now we can move on to introduce the seminar. A strong theme in the feedback that you gave us last year was to let us know how much you'd all enjoyed listening to Amy talk about how NAViGO had supported her through her illness. We've really built on that this year, and during our next seminar, there may be references to the different types of mental health experiences, including anxiety and depression. Please feel free to temporarily leave the seminar at any point if you are uncomfortable with the topic being discussed, and there is a quiet room upstairs which you can use. Just contact a member of the Corporate Affairs staff at the back of the room and they can direct you. If at any point today you feel the need to talk to someone, the North East Link Single Point of Access, SPA, is available on 256 option 3. I'd now like to introduce Joe Parfumon Parks. He's a very good friend of NAViGO, and this is his second AGM on the stage with us. But he's actually supported many events for NAViGO over the last few years. Staff award evenings and COVID quiz nights spring to mind. For those of you who were able to join us last year, you'll remember the fabulous interview that Joe did with Katie Thistleton. This year, we have Joe leading an interview with NAViGO service users and staff, talking about how NAViGO has supported them through their individual journeys and how they've been able to influence change within NAViGO. Joe will be welcoming to the sofa Pam Callison, Rebecca Wellington, Jim Cork and Darren Stone. And Joe will also be introducing a video from Claire Avery. So over to Joe. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Until I get to the middle, that's embarrassing. There we go. Thank you very much. And a big thank you there to Jane Lewington as well. Yeah, it's great to see Jane, isn't it? Oh, I always love to see Jane, and not just because it means that NAViGO has employed me to do something else. But in all seriousness, it is always great to get a call from NAViGO, a service that puts its members at the front of its operations and everything that it does. And it's great to be here at the NAViGO AGM, where we get to celebrate everything that NAViGO has done over the past 12 months. And I'm introducing something a little bit different, which I'm very excited, where I'll be sitting down with members of NAViGO to talk about their experiences with NAViGO and also their experiences with their mental health journey. I'd like to reiterate as well what Jane said about the trigger warning. If anybody is going to be upset about anything that we speak about today, feel free to leave at any time. All that I ask is that you don't go to the buffet before I've finished. I'll be very upset if I don't get a sausage roll this year. But let's not waste any more time. I'd like to introduce my first two guests today. So firstly, I'll be talking to Jim about his experience with the NAViGO group Forget-Me-Nots, and also his own experience with memory loss. And I'll also be talking to Darren as well. Darren is here to talk about his mental health journey and how working in a male-dominated environment affected him seeking help earlier. But let's welcome them both to the stage now. Here we go, welcome. So Darren, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. I know that you wanted to say some words before we got started, is that right?
Yeah, obviously my name's Darren and I'm here to speak about my journey and the support that I've had from NAViGO and what support they have to offer.
Perfect. So you, as we spoke obviously before today, you were telling me that you've mainly worked in sort of male-dominated environments, is that right?
It's mainly been male-dominated areas, yeah.
What sort of jobs have you worked in before?
It's basically just like working on docks, oil refineries, and manual jobs like that, yeah.
Yeah, and we also spoke obviously that you'd had mental health issues that you'd been dealing with within that work environment. Did you want to sort of tell us more about that experience for you?
Yeah, it's more like, obviously because it's a lot more male dominant, and, you know, us males were meant to act, you know, that manly side of things where you tend to kind of like shy away from it, you know, you hide it back. This whole thing about we're meant to be men, man up, you know, but it's just basically speaking out that, you know, us men, it is okay to be weak and vulnerable and to be able to reach out for help and support without feeling weak for doing it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that, like, man up mentality that everyone always says, oh, man up
Yeah.
all the time. But really, do you think when people say that, it stops you when you might need help, or if you're in that situation, that it stops you reaching out?
I think it does kind of like stop you a little bit, where you can be in contact with your emotions and your thoughts and your feelings as a man. And it is okay to feel like you can be vulnerable and weak and be in contact with your emotions.
And you're saying obviously that with being in a male-dominated environment in your works, do you feel that, like, your colleagues were there that would listen to you and be able to support you in that, or do you think it's like a just don't talk about it?
Obviously, you do get your odd one or two, yeah, but mainly working in a male-dominant manual job like that, you know, it is kind of like a boisterous place, you know, where it's kind of like a sticky situation where you can maybe look weak if you are in contact with that softer side of yourself and with your emotions.
Yeah, and how was when you've sort of had these mental health issues in the past, was your work supportive towards you? Or?
I couldn't say there was fully supportive. Like I say, that phrase, man up, you know, if ever you was to turn or to speak out about you struggling, it's, oh, come on, man up, get back in there with the lads, sort yourself out, you know. So you kind of like put that aside where you don't actually be in contact with that emotional side of yourself, which you don't deal with, and that's when it brews up, you bottle it up, and that's when it comes to a breaking point.
And do you say that, like, breaking point, was that an experience that you had while you were at work then?
Yeah, there's been many times where I haven't dealt with it, I haven't spoke out about it, I haven't felt comfortable, you know. And what I always used to do is I used to just always deal with it within myself and kind of hide it back a lot. But then there's always a time where them emotions, they have to build up and they build up and build up, and eventually they have to come out somewhere, and that's where then you hit that breaking point.
So you say this like build up of emotions that you experience. Do you think if you'd had somebody within the workplace that you could have spoken to, or that there was somebody there that would offer support, that it would stop you reaching that sort of breaking point?
Oh, definitely, yeah, definitely. I think it is a big thing at this moment in time where I think if a lot more people was to be able to speak out about it, and a lot more employees and employers, they understand and is more educated within mental health, so that they do have a part in the workplace that can deal with people like this, where people can be comfortable to be able to go and turn to somebody and feel that they can voice their opinions and their emotions and how they feel, and it being able to be dealt with in a correct manner and understood thoroughly in a workplace.
I know you've mentioned as well you've had support from the IPS services, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
And you found that very beneficial?
I've been very beneficial, to be honest. Like I say, when I was younger, I was chasing my lifelong dreams of being in Special Forces. That kind of like broke down, and I had to come away from that, which then, shortly after that, I then lost my mum, which then it really affected my mental health very bad. I then was just going through a stage of thinking there was nothing else out there for me that would give me that sense of gratitude to be able to do what it is I really wanted to do in life.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, being in contact with Charlene has now come to help me realise that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and there is another career that I can pursue in life that will still give me that self-sense of gratitude and make me happy.
That's wonderful to hear that you've had that support from Charlene and that you've managed to sort of find another purpose and like a reason that you'll find that happiness. I know, Jim, as well, that we've spoken to you before because you were in the Merchant Navy and your experiences there. I know you said that when you were there from about 16, is that right?
Yeah, you couldn't join the Merchant Navy until you was about 16 and a half. Then you went down to a college to train either for the catering or the deck. But what they don't cater for is the workload that you might have and how you deal with that. So when you're sort of 1,500 miles from anywhere, if anything goes wrong, like with your mental health, what did with me, there's no real support there. They had a medical facility, but it was more for cuts, bruises and things like that. So the breakdown had a big impact, and even now it still has remnants from it.
And do you think if there'd been sort of mental health support on board the ship, that it may have, it's hard to know, isn't it, like where you'd be, but do you think it would have been of support to you at that time?
I'm sure it would, but I think also if there had been support before you go into any of the forces, it can help so that you can reach out to people. You know, but in a male-dominated world like what you were saying, there isn't that support, and people don't want to admit that they've had some similar problems because that makes them vulnerable, you know, and to a certain point you can be picked on, you know. It's hard. And of course in them days there wasn't the mental support like there is now with NAViGO and other organisations.
Talking of the support you're receiving now, I know you want to talk about your experiences with memory loss.
Yeah, about 9 years ago, I suppose, or 10, I was having memory problems, went to the doctor, suggested I was tested. They did the test, they found that it wasn't just an age-related thing, that there was more to it. And then once I got the diagnosis of cognitive memory impairment, then it was suggested I might join a group with NAViGO called Forget-Me-Nots.
And how have you found being with the Forget-Me-Nots?
Very good, because they give you exercises that stimulate your memory. But also it's a family unit, you know, and you don't feel on your own. You feel that someone else is going through this, and that you might learn from how they've coped or how they're coping. And also, of course, you're given phone numbers and groups that you can also go to for that help. So it's an all-round thing rather than just being individual. Because there's nothing worse than feeling you're on your own, you know.
Yeah, and you've sort of created this community with everybody there. How often do you meet?
We meet every Tuesday from 1:30 to around about 3 o'clock. It's run by Kelly Moore, but she's helped a lot by Lorraine Richards, which is good. So they all work as a team, you know, and they also make sure that if you're having problems or there's any slight decline, they can point you in the right direction. Because without that support, you go down a lot faster.
So would you recommend to people that are listening today that they would get involved with these groups, like the Forget-Me-Nots, and sort of, it offers more than, you're saying, than just what it's there for, but you have that sort of community element as well?
Yeah, I think if you join groups, even if it's once a month, it's something to look forward to. You can talk to people that maybe are further on their journey with their mental health, and how they're dealing with it. So it can be signposted in a lot of ways that can help. Without that, you'd be sat at home just twiddling your thumbs, you know, and I think you would decline a lot faster. So.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to say a big thank you to both Darren and Jim here. I think we all agree have done an absolutely wonderful job. So let's give them all both a big round of applause. So, thank you so much. I'll let you two escape into the wings now. So thank you, everyone. I'm excited to be handing over to a video that the comms team have they've gone and spoken experiences, so we can all sit back and watch that now.
Hello there, my name is Claire Avery and I'm a NAViGO community member. Well, I've got roughly about 30 years experience in health and social care. I went straight from being a full-time worker into retirement, which was a bit of a strange thing really, because ideally I would have liked to have cut my days down and gone gradually into retirement. I actually came in as a patient, if you like, about 7 years ago when I drove to Kent, which is obviously quite a long drive, and I arrived there and my daughter tells me I wasn't me. So she took me to the local hospital, and at that point I was actually unconscious for 3 days and nobody knew why. I just wasn't responding. As far as they could tell, I was fine, I just wasn't responding. And when I woke up, obviously I was very surprised to learn that I'd been out for 3 days. And from there, it was quite a long process to try to diagnose what my problem was. But it certainly manifested as a mental health issue to begin with, and it went on like that for quite some time. I must say that NAViGO did look at my medical health as well as my mental health, but obviously the focus was on my mental health because that was how I was presenting. And I was actually on one of the lodges, Pelham Lodge I believe it was, and I was there for quite some time, and in that time I was having medical tests, and it turned out in the end that I actually had a tumour on my parathyroid gland, which meant that I was producing too much calcium. So this took about 18 months to actually sort out. I was very unwell, mentally very unwell. I was hearing things, seeing things. I was paranoid. In fact, my family thought I had dementia maybe, because that's how it presented. And I needed very careful looking after, and I was happy with the treatment that I had on Pelham Lodge. They looked after me quite well, and I was going in between getting the medical tests until it was decided what my problem was, and then it took about another 18 months before the tumour was taken out, and I found that I got an awful lot better after then. So I think I can say it was both a mental health and a medical problem, and that's why I'm so pleased that NAViGO are now having their medical roles to start to look into dual problems when people are admitted, and I think that'll be a great help for people like myself. Well, I came to be more involved because Dr. Joji was aware that I'd retired very suddenly, and although I was well when I was seeing him and coming down on my medication, he suggested that I got involved with NAViGO so that I could in a way take care of my own mental health, because I found it a great help doing the volunteering in terms of getting out, meeting people. I've met some very nice people at NAViGO. I've not come across anybody that was negative. They're all respectful, and I really enjoy taking part in the interview process, which I find I'm able to do to quite an extent really, which is really good, because I did wonder if whether it would just be a tick box exercise, but I've got to say it's not. You do, you know, and I would encourage anybody who's suffered with their mental health to get involved in the interview panels, because it gives you a lot back. Yeah, I like to be able to give back, but it allows me to use my brain again, because an interview process is quite difficult actually, because you've really got to focus, you've got to listen to what the interviewee is saying to you, you have to write down what they're saying to you, you have to compare it to the job and person spec and anything else. So I feel when I've come out, I've actually had a day at work, which I like, and I just feel happy when I go home that I've got out, I've talked, I've not been at home looking at four walls and, you know, getting a bit bored, to be honest. It makes me feel valued again, and that I've still got something to offer. I go home feeling happy, so I feel it's a two-way process. I feel I'm giving something back, which is really important to me, and I also feel I'm getting something from it. I quite often come into the cafe now and have a drink or have some lunch and whatever. It's very nice down there actually. So well, I don't think I fully understood until I suffered with mental health problems myself, because hearing things and seeing things are very real, and you can be a worker or manager that's managed people and seen patients along with everyone else as I did. I don't feel you have a great understanding until you've suffered it yourself, and to be in that state where you're very confused and things are moving across the ceiling and you're seeing things and that sort of thing is a terrifying process. So I feel that I can add something, because I really feel I do understand what at least some patients are going through. I don't think there's anything to be afraid of or wary of, because as I said previously, I found everybody's been very respectful and kind, and I've just not had any problems. I've found the whole experience really enjoyable. So yeah, I would encourage anybody to get involved, particularly to protect your mental health, because getting out and meeting people, not being lonely, having someone to talk to, using your brain are really important.
So a big thank you to Claire there. Wonderful to hear about her experiences with NAViGO. So now I get to invite two more guests on to come and talk to me. So we're going to have Pam joining me, who's going to be talking about being a non-elective director and all of the wonderful volunteer work that she does here at NAViGO. And we're also talking to Becky as well, who is going to talk about her journey with work and actually being a member of staff here for NAViGO as well. So let's welcome them both on. Oh, we've got some music this time. That's very exciting. So, Becky, thank you for coming and joining me. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. You?
Yeah, good, thank you very much. So you obviously work now for NAViGO, but is that how you first came to experience NAViGO? Was it through the workforce or?
So I started with NAViGO as a service user. I was with the community mental health team. I had a care co, and
thank you very much.
Thank you. And
you've got a fan already.
Yeah. So I had a care coordinator, but we identified that a big issue of mine was when I had a previous employer, and I was struggling in that employment, and it was really affecting my mental health. And I've got vivid memories of saying to my care coordinator, after I just handed my notice in, left that employment and said, I'm never working again. I can't do it. I can't face it. And I was just ready to give up. And I just remember her saying to me, you can't not work. You can't, you know, you need to do something with your time. So she introduced me to IPS, which is the individual placement and support. And I met with the lead of IPS, and again, vivid memories of that first meeting, and she was very compassionate, very reassuring, and I cried because I felt like I'd been heard, and I felt like there was hope that I wasn't just going to be on the scrapyard because of my mental health, and I was able to find another form of employment with their support. So I threw myself into that service, took the help that I could, and they suggested that I volunteered for Chooks for a little while. Again, it was confidence building, getting some experience in just going into admin, because my previous role was very different from my different employer. So we did that for a time, and I really enjoyed that. That was because I was sitting on the reception at NAViGO House as well, so it was kind of like being like the first person visitors see when they come to NAViGO, so I really enjoyed that. And then an opportunity came up with a paid role. It was only part-time, which I thought was great because it was easing me back into the world of work.
Yeah, if you've been out of work for a while, to go straight into full-time, it can be a lot.
So, and I was successful at that interview, and yes, I've been with NAViGO for 4 years, just over now. So yeah. That's
really interesting. So you obviously had that help there from IPS. Did they continue to support you then when you joined the workforce?
Yeah, they did. So we did it was called a Wellbeing Action Plan, and they're really, really helpful because it helped me to identify what it looks like if I'm not well that day, or what it looks like if I'm having a rough time, and then you can once you've identified that, then you can be more mindful and communicate to your employer and say, okay, this is a situation with me today. Can I do this as a reasonable adjustment, or this? It's like having a plan in place to help you stay well at work. But yeah, for a few months afterwards, I had my IPS worker coming to visit me in the workplace, and communicating with my managers, and so yeah, there was a lot of support there, and I still get support from NAViGO even though I'm not with services anymore, and my management and my team are really supportive.
Oh, that is great to hear. I was just about to ask you about when you do need changes in the workplace, or when you did need changes in the workplace, how was NAViGO able to sort of help you and support you in that area?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they were very open to listening, and it's obviously, I've always said, it's better to not go to someone with just a problem. If you can go to them with the problem and a solution as to what you'd like the help with, then they've always been really accommodating with that.
That's great to hear. I know obviously we spoke to Darren earlier and his experiences within the workplace, and it's great to hear that NAViGO have offered you that support while you're working, and that you've got that flexibility. They've got that flexibility to make sure they're getting the best out of you. Really,
absolutely,
as well.
It's a really good thing. But yeah, if there's opportunity to any member of staff to do a wellbeing action plan, you don't have to be a member of IPS if you want to do one, and work with your manager, because it's all about your well-being as well at the end of the day.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. Like I say, it's just so great to hear that you feel like you've had all of that support in place there.
It's kind of gave me I would say a second wind, because like I said, I was ready to stop working, give up working, and now I work for this amazing organisation. My team are great, you know, everyone is lovely, and I'm really happy here, so.
Do you think as well that being in work and having that routine daily has sort of helped with your mental health as well?
Yes, definitely. It's all about the meaningful use of time, having a reason to get up and do something in the morning, because if I wasn't working, I knew I'd probably end up staying up till 4 in the morning and sleeping all day, and it throws you out of routine. And yeah, it's keeping that routine and having that, having something to get up and go to, and being involved with like the workforce and being involved with other people as well.
So I know you said that you initially went into a part-time position with NAViGO. What was that
I
doing?
was the admin receptionist. It was like an admin assistant role. So.
And are you full-time?
I'm full-time. I work in estates with my title is Sustainability Workforce and Health and Safety Coordinator.
I think it's so wonderful when we hear about people that go into, because it's a voluntary position originally, wasn't it? To see that growth and that sort of nurturing that NAViGO does of people that gets them into, not only into full-time employment, but also to hear that they, you know, supported you along that journey within the organisation itself, sort of put your money where your mouth is sort of thing as well, which is so wonderful to hear about all of that. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sort of coming on and sharing that all with us. So thank you very much. And we should say hello to Pam there as well. Pam, I'm so impressed you've already got all your notes out there on the side. You're doing a lot better than me. I should have some somewhere, I think. But yeah, so you were, I talked earlier about you being a non-elective director. Executive director, I missed that. That's already in trouble. That's not in my notes, you see, that's right. So do you want to tell the people a little bit about what that means? Obviously I need to know because I already said the wrong words.
Well, it meant that I was elected as a community representative first of all, and then within the community reps we then decided who was going to be the non-exec director, and I was chosen. I was fortunate enough to be chosen, and that gave me the experience of sitting on the kick boards, management boards, and dealing with service users right up to management and the executive. So I could question the directors on issues directly, and I could pass any comments up from service users, carers.
So you're there sort of to represent
I was there to represent the members.
And then if they, so would you talk to members then and gain more insight into their information?
Yeah, to speak to members. I go onto the lodges on a Friday morning and speak to service users on there. I go to other forums, I go to groups and speak to them and see if they've got any issues. If they have, take it forward. One of the issues was they didn't like the fish pie on the lodges. So I spoke to the chef and we've got that changed now to chicken stew, so hopefully that's going to be a lot more
enjoyable. I'm sure they'll be happier with that. It's great to hear that you're there to sort of find out what members actually want, so it's not a dictatorship as such of people being told what they're doing and why, but to sort of make sure that the service is doing what people want it to do, its members want it to do.
Yeah, and it's being given, you know, being a service user myself, which I have been for 12 years, I've got an understanding on how my issues have caused me problems, and just sort of speaking to others and finding out what their stories are, and passing their stories on can help to improve the services.
So what made you want to sort of, I know you've talked there a little bit about your own mental health experiences there, but what made you want to get more involved with NAViGO and give back?
Well, I've spent 12 years, like I said, as a service user. I spent a year on the lodges. I was detained under the Mental Health Act for periods of time. I was one of the first to join the Sequoia Therapeutic Community, which gave me a lot of support, gave me back some confidence, it taught me skills, started to give me a life worth living again, because I was in a really dark place. Self-harming and dark thoughts were continuously in my mind. But I've got through that. I've done the dialectical behaviour therapy, learnt skills from that.
What does that therapy entail for those that...
It's giving you skills on interpersonal relationship, being able to manage in a crisis, which is a big thing for me. I'm trying to think of the other emotional regulation, yeah. Managing my emotions a lot better. Rather than turning to self-harm to regulate emotions, doing things a lot better ways. And sort of going through all that, it's cost a lot for NAViGO to put me through all those services. So I want to give back to NAViGO to say thank you for what they've done to me. They've given me a life worth living again, which is one of their main aims, and that's what they've actually done for me.
That is so wonderful to hear, and I'm sure with you giving back NAViGO, so I'm sure they're also so grateful to you for that ability to sort of give them back and help them grow and improve and things like that. So I think that's so wonderful to hear that you've got that from NAViGO. To go back, you were saying you're a member of the kickboard, is that right?
Yes, yeah, so sit on the kickboard.
So what is the kickboard?
That's an executive meeting board. It's where we discuss various items.
Depends what comes up.
And it just, I can actually sort of quiz them and question them and make them answer
questions
that people want to know the answers to, yeah.
Perfect. And how long have you been on there for?
I've been non-exec director for 3 years. Today's my last day, which I'm really sad about. So hopefully, if any of you out there have got a job for me, please let me know.
What can we get you to do next?
So I need something to keep me busy, because that's helped my mental health greatly.
Would you recommend to people that are listening today then that they should get involved with these sorts of groups and boards and things?
Definitely. Just the feeling you get for helping somebody, for giving back to what you've been given, and just being able to help again makes you feel so much better. And if I can do it, anybody can actually do it. So yeah, it's definitely an I can do.
So has there been any other sort of areas of NAViGO that you've volunteered with before?
I've been involved in some of the groups. I've interviewed.
Oh, which groups are you a member of?
The dance group and the arts and craft group. So I like my arts and crafts. So,
I've never seen you at the drama group. I'm very upset now. I'll have to try and get you to sign up. You know, I'm not here to plug anything, but it does start back on Monday if anybody's interested in coming along. Talk to Kelly Moore. But you said you were also on the, I was going to call them audition panels. I got very lovely. I mentioned one drama group. No, but on the interview panels as well. How did you get involved with that?
My first interview I did was for a psychologist for the therapeutic community. So it was quite scary to do that interview because it was for such a high position. But the support of the others that were doing it with me, the other staff members and that, but they actually listened to what I had to say as to sort of who I would appoint, which was really nice. You know, like Claire had said, it wasn't just a tick box exercise. They did actually listen to me, and I've done interviews for lots of different positions now, so I'm hopefully quite good with the interview questions when it comes to my turn.
and you feel like your opinion sort of actually was listened to and was important for the members of staff that were on that panel as well. That you
Yes.
had a genuine that's
Yeah,
really great.
I've made a genuine difference to sort of who they have employed and who they haven't employed.
I'd be really interested to hear, Becky, because I guess you've probably been on the other side of that, where you've had a member of NAViGO actually be on an interview panel that's interviewing you. Oh, was it Pam? Oh, it's a small world, isn't it?
Yeah, she was on the panel that interviewed me, yeah.
Oh, well, how did you find... don't say anything nasty. No, but how did you find having a member there? Obviously yourself, you've had sort of mental health issues in the past. Was it nice to know that there was somebody there on the panel that was looking at it from a more human perspective, you know, like somebody that's thinking, you know, how will this person treat other members?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's awesome for that co-production and having, you know, and getting the members' opinions and views on the candidates. And but yeah, I think it was the first. NAViGO is the first organisation I've applied for that have had members, you know, that are on the interview panel. So it's, I think it's a really good thing.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing that they're sort of involved. So it seems that there are members being involved at every level. That there's always that talks going on with them. That their opinions are listened to, and that must be a nice feeling. And it must be something that you feel frequently. Otherwise, you wouldn't be volunteering in these positions. Do you always feel like you're sort of being listened to by NAViGO? Yeah,
I do feel as though it is a listening company, and it's an organisation that you would want to be involved with. And like I say, the support that they give is just phenomenal. So,
and you've always had, when you've been in these roles, like sort of on the kickboard, and they're always offering you support alongside that, training or anything.
Yeah, I've had lots of support, lots of training. When there's been issues that have been a little bit sensitive and that have triggered me, I've been allowed, you know, I've stepped out of those bits and then come back into the meeting a little bit later on. So it's given me a chance to still give my input, but without hearing some of the parts that were going to affect me. I've had supervision to ensure that my well-being's kept well. And it's worked really well. Yeah, because I'm smiling, I'm happy, and...
Yeah, that sounds incredible. And is it so... Obviously, NAViGO is such a huge organisation now with all these different departments. So when you're sitting on these interview panels and things like that, is it sort of different areas that you sit on, or is there like one team that you work with regularly?
No, I've sat on people for the cafe at the garden centre, interviews for different roles completely, from cleaners right up to management positions across the organisation. So I think I've sat virtually every area, I think, in NAViGO. I think I've had some input.
You must recognise, you must look around the room and be like, oh yeah, I was on your panel, I was on your panel. You're a powerful person in that way. I like this, it's interesting. Oh, well, thank you so much, both of you, for coming and talking with me. I really, really appreciate it. It's been wonderful hearing your stories and how NAViGO's helped you both. So thank you so much for talking to me. Let's give them both a huge round of applause. So, thank you everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm now going to sneak off as Jane comes back on, so I can get to the sausage rolls before the rest of you can. So if you could all stay seated for Jane, please. But thank you all so much.
Run, Joe, run. A massive thank you to Joe, to Pam, to Rebecca, Darren, Jim and Claire for sharing their experiences and their thoughts. really powerful stuff and very entertaining. Right, so can I just remind you that as you go for your lunch, which is now available, to use both stairways, so we try and minimise the queues. Can I also remind you to place your voting chips in the voting tubes for the projects of the year, and the marketplace will be open throughout the lunch period, and we're back here promptly at 1:10 when the AGM will actually start. So go and enjoy your lunch. Thank you very much. Thank you.